Psychologist Dr Sam Choeneemang is on Zoom to talk to us a little bit about the experiences that some people face, particularly those that are just destitute and lonely around the festive season. Thanks very much indeed for joining us. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate this moment, and thanks for inviting me.
It must be, I mean, for all of us who are fortunate enough to be able to look forward to this day of celebration and family time, I suppose this heightens the loneliness for those that don't have people around them and those that are destitute.
Quite frankly, it really does, because this is actually the time when everyone rather wishes to spend time with family and loved ones, friends, and all those that are dear to them. And you know, this time of the year, Christmas time, poses a challenge for some people, particularly those who find themselves marginalized and really not being able to celebrate this as everyone else does. So indeed, this can really kind of evoke a whole lot of emotions and feelings that many people rather would not want to. So indeed, this is quite not really a celebratory time, but it can be quite a dire moment for many people without many of us realizing that.
All right, there's different groups of people. There are those that are destitute for one reason or another, are homeless, and then there's this group of people who perhaps just don't have family around them. What worries you the most about those that are just home alone?
Yeah, those who are home alone, you know, there's really a variety of reasons why people will be home alone, you know. Others find themselves quite isolated for a variety of aspects or reasons. Some do not have the means to be able to join other people and celebrate together with them, and so on. And also you find people sitting all by themselves simply because there might be some issues around family which they are not in a space to indulge in, you know, and they rather choose to be home alone. But that really does pose a lot of distress for them, and eventually it might lead to a lot of mental issues or mental health issues and so on. But as you equally said, you know, there are those who are really destitute because they don't have the means. They don't have a place to stay. They don't have any supplies to be able to kind of have for them to enjoy this kind of season. And this also really does put them on the periphery of society, and it makes them feel quite rejected, isolated at times, and it really brings about an issue about worthlessness, or, you know, whether are they valued, are they kind of in a space where they can be equally important within the society that we live in.
And I would imagine it's particularly difficult for people that perhaps once led very successful lives, because we often think that the destitute are a particular category of people, but they could have once been accountants, they could have been once, you know, professional people, and for one reason or another, they found themselves unemployed and homeless. I suppose for them to see their former life through other people makes it even harder.
It absolutely does. It absolutely does. You know, sometimes life can become so unpredictable because you cannot for sure determine what your future would be. You can only hope and wish for things to turn out the way that you would like them to. But indeed, there are people who might have had their fair share of comfort in life, and sometimes the fortunes really do turn around to a point that someone, you know, ends up being in the sideline of society.
Yeah.
You know, there are very serious issues that people are confronted with. We're talking about losses of loved ones. We talk about mental health issues that might actually then make people to lose the essence of what they used to be. We talk about dilapidation and disintegration of families, divorces, and so on. All those aspects can actually end up having very dire outcomes or very adverse consequences for people who have been once in life kind of really in control and really having control of their own lives.
What should we do as communities? I'll give you an example. My next door neighbor, I've seen her twice in the last 3 months. She lives alone, middle-aged, and she keeps herself to herself, and I know that she lives alone. Do we just leave them? What do we do? Because I can't think that it's healthy.
It's absolutely not. But I think we need to have that sense of being able to reach out to others. I think quite a lot of times we are consumed in our own spaces, and when we have our own comfort, we somehow become kind of really not observant of what is happening around us. But I think as individuals, as human beings, as society members, we need to always remind ourselves and have that, that sixth sense that we always need to be aware so that we can be able to reach out to those who might be in need. Because when someone is really dejected and depressed and so on, they themselves do not reach out and seek help, so they keep to themselves. And when this happens, we are often quite oblivious of what might be happening in our environment. And I think we need to always try to be kind enough and reach out to others and check, how everyone else is doing, and be able, without really interfering in business of others. But we often kind of find out later on that someone had been so much depressed and they eventually lost their lives and so on, simply because we are oblivious to us being able to pick up. And that only can be evoked by our sense of caring, our sense of kindness, for us to be able to pick up when people are really in need.
Yeah. All right, perhaps finally, come January, what typically the mental health conditions are you having to deal with post the holiday period?
Quite a lot. We come from a period for the past 2.5 years or so, where there's been a very drastic change within, or rather in the economic landscape. We know that people have lost their loved ones. We know that people have lost means of support, and they've lost, economic opportunities, which have been quite far, far worse than we always had. So we know that January, any beginning of the year, people start to have goals, start to have aspirations, but quite often these come about with the necessity for finances. And we know that this is the time when people now, they have to look for having to pay school fees for their children. Students have to register at varsity or any institution of higher learning. And this quite often really brings about a lot of distress. And we know that it can be a very, very difficult time for many members of society. So indeed, there are mental health issues that will come about. As much as we are dealing with mental health issues at the moment, where people might not be having the means to be able to be jovial and really have fun and have any sort of pleasantries around this period of the year. But also in the beginning of the year, it's even worse, because now everyone is really running helter-skelter, trying to see how are they going to figure out and venture into the new year.
Dr. Sam, we're going to have to leave it there. Thanks very, very much indeed for your insights, and hopefully we can be more mindful about the people around us. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it, Peter.
Thank you. All right, that's psychologist Dr. Sam Choeneemang, and joining us to talk about people who probably need a little bit more attention from us. So we need to pay attention, I think, about the people that we see and sometimes leave on their own devices and probably need a little hug. Who knows?